Welcome to I Finally Get It. This week we have Logan Bowers, founder of Strategic Stewardship. In studio with us as always, Dustin Webb, our producer. I'm your host, Jeff Martin. Let's get it.
Probably the most important thing is that the people that you do deals with is way more important than the deals themselves.
Amen.
The people that you're in business with have way more impact on the outcome of anything than the actual mechanics of the deal. That has to make sense. And those numbers and dollars and cents all have to make sense. But the actual people are what make it go or not. And also something else is you can do everything right. So I'm in the real estate business, right? It's like you can do everything right and it can still not go right.
Yeah,
like
sure.
You have these outside market conditions. And I think that's every type of business and every type of deal is knowing that the results are ultimately not in my hands. My job is to sow the seeds. My job is to be diligent and pull the weeds and all those things. But like God has to make the plant grow and bring the harvest. And like, I can't control that as much as I would like to. It's not within my realm of control.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a very valuable lesson. And that's for any company out there.
Yes.
We control our controllables. We do the best we can.
That's right. And then the results are left up to the market and these outside forces that again, we don't have control over. We can plan for them. We can be diligent, but it's a roll of the dice sometimes,
that's right.
Especially in my world, investing. Like we literally are making bets on the future and the future's uncertain.
Yeah. I love real estate investing and I really do think it's a great business practice. But did you get into real estate as an agent and you went that route at first?
I've done pretty much everything you can do in the real estate space. Honestly, I'm a college dropout. So dropped out of UL. I had a really good friend. His dad was in the oil and gas space. They were doing fluids. I went to work there and enjoyed it. It was something new and fun and ended up working offshore, working 24-hour call and kind of knew that I wanted to get out of that space. Yeah. Both my grandparents were business owners. My aunts and uncles kind of like skipped the generation. A couple of those are, but both my grandparents were. So I was around small business my whole life. And I just always had that like desire when I was an employee to like, there's gotta like, I know I can call these shots. Like I know I felt, I don't know if it was my pride or arrogance or whatever, but I felt like I could call the shots better than some of the management that I was dealing with. And so in 2016, I ended up getting out of the field, started working in the office, met my business partner who would later become my business partner. And he was buying a few real estate deals. And so he came in and was like, hey man, like you need to buy real estate. And I'm like, hey dude, I'm 25 years old and I don't want to drink beer and play golf and bow hunt. And like, I don't care about real estate or my retirement. Yeah. I was just not in that mindset. As Robert Kiyosaki would say, I was very much in that poor dad mentality. Yep. And he actually read that book and I gave my life to Christ in December 2015. So that was instrumental for me. And me and Hillary got married a month before that, gave my life to Christ after we get married, go into 2016. And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in April. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been missing it the whole time. Like I have literally been missing it, right? So go in, read the book. My whole focus is like, I have to buy assets, but I only had about 30 grand, right? So I'm like looking at like the portable ice machines and like all these like very small assets that I could potentially buy, which is not many. And then we find out a month later that we're pregnant with our first kid. And then a week later, me and my location manager, who also became my first business partner, both get let go from our job.
Oh, wow.
So we got pushed right out the nest.
And pushed right into...
And so I was like, I started cutting grass and I was always in operations. So I started cutting grass, which is what I did in high school with my cousins during the day. And then I started selling rainbow vacuums at night.
Yeah.
Okay. And so like, it was like magic, right? So like I start selling rainbow vacuums. I'm in there. I'm like talking to these people. And like at the end of a couple hours, like they buy a $2,500 vacuum and I leave and I'm just like, this is incredible. Like I get to talk to people and they just give me money. I'm like, and it was my first real taste of sales. Like I had never really experienced that. My parents always had a real negative connotation around it that salespeople were shady or they were, they didn't do anything, like they just did nothing and made a bunch of money. And so like I had that connotation about sales, but I realized I was really good at it. So that led us into me and Brandon decided to start a business. I felt sorry for myself for a few weeks.
Sure.
I was sitting on the sofa one day and that was the day that I made the decision. I was watching ESPN First Take and I was filling out jobs and I worked for Halliburton for a few years, about 5 years when I got out of college. And I'm filling out a job application to go back into the same job that I had before. And in that moment, I was like, this is the definition of insanity. I'm doing the same thing and I'm trying to go back into the boat and be miserable that I was already in. I'm like, this is crazy. So I get out, I call Brandon, I get my phone out, I call Brandon. I'm like, hey dude, like let's do this real estate thing. Right. So made the decision. So then that was the immediate money, was the cutting the grass and the selling the rainbow vacuums. And so we were just going to flip houses. So I started off flipping houses. So we went and found a local mentor and we started flipping houses, buying them. We bought the first one. We ended up raising money for that deal because all the banks were like, you guys are not really bankable. We had great credit scores. We had some money, but we just didn't have any income coming in. Our wives were working, but we were making, really good money, down to $30,000 and $40,000 a year with our spouses made. And they were like, we're not giving you any money. Like a bunch of them. Like we went to a bunch of banks and they were like, no. So anyways, we ended up raising the money for our first deal. So we brought half the money in, we raised the other half.
Is it like mama, papa, sister kind of thing, friends?
Yeah, it was actually our real estate agent ran basically a hard money lending business that we had no idea about. She was kind of sitting there silently waiting. We're asking people, we go to our mentor and I'm like, hey, the banks are telling us no. He's like, all right, we'll just ask somebody for money. And like, I understand conceptually the rich dad, poor dad.
Yeah.
But like, he's talking about apartment complexes. I'm talking about this little single family house in the middle of Lafayette.
That you want to flip.
That I want to flip.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, just go raise the money from somebody. And I'm like, hold on. Like, people are going to give me money to buy a house? He's like, yes, like a regular person. So we started asking friends and family, and it's going okay. Nothing really turns up. It ended up starting the conversation on some stuff that came to fruition later. But what happened was our agent was like, I'll fund it for you guys. We're like, oh, like you do this? And she represents a guy who's pretty wealthy, but she like kind of runs that piece of the business for him. And so she loaned us the money, the other $60,000 we needed. We flipped that house. We made $17,000 and we thought that we were bulletproof, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We were like,
off to the next one.
Off to the next one. We put 3 under contract the next month. So it was very like, so that's the play that we ran. We would buy houses, flip them, and then buy single family rentals, cash, low income single family rentals with a profit. And so that's how we got into it. A year in, I got my real estate license. So a year in, got my real estate license. My business partner at the time, Brandon, he didn't really love the messiness of it, and the income was up and down. And so he was like, man, I need to get some stable income for my family. So he went back into the oil field and went into sales, where he should have been also. He was in operations as well. So he went back into the oil field, which was fantastic. He's still doing that now.
Yeah, it was great.
Crushing it and making a very, very good living, way more money than we were making back then. So I got my license during that time because I was like, well, I'll just do our transactions is what I thought, right? So we're a year in, we have done a few deals, bought some houses. And so I got my real estate license. Well, that led me down a path of even more sales and more sales training, more formal sales training, and other agents and other people that love to sell. And so like, I kind of got, sucked into that world, went into that world. And so the investing became kind of more passive for us for a few years.
Got it.
And then I ended up running the largest sales team in Lafayette, the Red Star team, where we had 10 agents and 5 admin. We were selling 300 homes a year. I was selling 50 homes a year. So doing like the agent life at a very, very high level. And through that, I'd done a bunch of different type of deals, smaller partnerships, quadplexes, duplexes, just a bunch of real estate deals, flipping houses, buying holds. And I realized in that, I was like, hey, this doesn't really scale. And I don't really like this either. Yeah. And so I decided in 2021, when my third child was born, my daughter, so I have two boys and a girl. I was home for 2 weeks. I offloaded all my clients and I was like, peaceful. I was like, man, this is a pretty
risky move though.
This is why I got into real estate, right? Just for 2 weeks, like they were taking care of the clients, right? So I was still getting paid on these, but they were taking care of all the responsibilities, right? So I'm like, I didn't get into this to be doing all these transactions. Like this is great. I was making really good money, but I'm like, I didn't get into real estate to have no time freedom. Like I literally was attached to my phone, just tape it to my head. It was either an agent calling me, a client calling me, somebody was always needed my time. And I felt like I was out of control. But when I was in it, I didn't really feel that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I had that 2 week break, I'm like, whew, like I can breathe.
Yeah. That's important.
Yeah. And so,
and if I can, here's our first light bulb moment. Yeah. Really, it's taking a break, stopping what you're doing, and starting to think about what you really, really, really want to do. And we don't do that.
No, we get into these patterns.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And we just do, and we do, and we do. And so I got a chance to just breathe. And I remember just writing this in my journal. I want to own multifamily real estate. I was sitting out by the pond one day and I was like, I want to own multifamily. I always wanted to do that. And my first business partner, Brandon, I loved him. We're still really good friends. And he was just like, he didn't see it. He didn't really, it wasn't attractive to him. And I always had a heart for it. So that was the point where I was like, all right, I'm going to start buying some bigger deals. And that's when I kind of pivoted to doing more of the multifamily stuff. And, as history goes, right, I ended up putting the mobile home park under contract about 30 days after that and bought my first deal in another 60 days, closed on it. First multifamily deal. And then later that year, I bought another one, a 77 unit apartment complex. So got into that game and started getting some traction. 2016, did a bunch of things, but all around the real estate space. But one of my challenges, I'm sure you've picked up on, is just focusing on one thing.
Yeah, sure.
Because I enjoy doing deals. I enjoy doing business.
Do you feel like that focus has brought you, the laser focus you needed to move forward? Or do you still kind of...
I've had periods of really tight focus, and those were always where I made ground. Like when I go back and look, it's like those were when I always made ground. And I am very much a visionary. Like I can see the future before it happens. I am like excited about it. What I was missing for a lot of that was a real true integrator.
Yeah, sure.
And a loop closer. And I have that now. So like my current business partner now, he's an engineer by schooling. He's never really played in that space a whole lot, but he thinks that way. He's a loop closer. Like he's the guy that's wrapping up the close ends. And so I needed that to get real traction and focus for him to ask me the really powerful questions that I ask the people that I'm coaching or the people that I'm helping.
That's right.
Or even people that want to invest with us. Like we have to hey, what's your appetite? Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah. What's the outcome?
What are you trying to get? Yeah. But it's really hard. I'm sure you do. You know this, like we can't coach ourselves.
Yeah. No,
right.
Yeah.
As great as we think we are, like we can't coach ourselves. And so like he helps me in the day-to-day coaching myself, right?
That's important.
Coaching me of like, hey, Logan, you said this was the priority. Is this still the priority? I know we can make money on this deal, but if money's the goal, everything's interesting. But what is our mission? Like, why are we here?
That is huge.
And so he helps keep me focused on like, what is our mission? Why are we here? Like, and that is what keeps me focused now. And we have a really clear, very narrow path that we're focused on for business. But I needed that other person, that counterpart to, and not just one time, often,
all the time,
right?
Yeah,
because I listen to a podcast and I get an idea, and I'm like,
I know.
Let's go buy these type of buildings. And he's like, does this get us to where we're trying to go? Does this serve the mission?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. All right, pass. You know,
yeah,
so
that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's good.
I'm grateful for it because it's also given me a really broad spectrum of investments. I've done private lending. I've borrowed money. I've done, again, a bunch of different types of deals. So it's really easy for me to think through the components of a deal and really find out if a deal has merit in the real estate space. So I can vet deals very quickly, and I can also get in the weeds of a lot of different type of opportunities because I've done them. I've been in those deals. I know the ins and outs. So that lack of focus and that broad education has given me the ability to kind of look at deals and analyze them pretty quickly. So that's something I've got from my lack of focus, positive from it.
Yeah,
right?
But that it's valuable though, because we learn from costly mistakes, things that really take too much time. But
seminars.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned coaching.
Yes.
Right. So what's your client? So on one side, you're over here investing in multifamily homes and what it sounds like other types of deals.
Yep.
And then over here, do you teach people how to invest?
I've always been doing it. After we flipped the first house, we got back. We went to a conference, and they tell you to. This is in 2016, right? And they're like, "Hey, Facebook Lives are going to be huge," right? And now like we're so far removed from that, like Facebook Lives are not even cool anymore. But it was like, you got to go live on Facebook if you want to build audience, because people need to know who you are. So we got back, and if you want a real treat, if you go back and look at videos from then, when we were shooting videos, I weighed about 250 pounds then, had, shaved head, and, we were terrible on camera, but we got on camera. And so
that's another light bulb moment.
Yeah.
You weren't ready for it, but you went ahead and
did it. And so we started building a little bit of following right from the beginning. So people were asking me after we flipped one house, like, hey, like, can you guys teach me how to do this? We're like, we don't even know how to do this yet, but like, I'll tell you what I know. And so I always had that affinity for education. Yeah. I obviously was not very good at the formal education process, but when I started learning that I could be educated on things that I really enjoyed and that I could teach other people that, I really loved the education space. So since then, I used to do it just for free, and it wasn't really I would just do it just because I enjoyed it. And now we kind of turned it a little more formal. We have a process where we meet regularly. We do group coaching. There's usually two types of people. There's people that want to have their hands on it and they want to be the operator. And then there's the other group of people, which is most of the population, that they just want to get the benefits of real estate, but they don't want to do the work of real estate.
Yeah, they're investors.
That's right.
But there's nothing wrong with either.
And what I find is a lot of them come in and they think they want to do the business, but they really just want the benefits and they don't know the way to get the benefits without doing the work. But there are those few that like are wired like me, that they want the ball, like they want to be in the deals. They want to be putting the deals together. So we help those people typically get into their first deal, or some of them have done a couple deals, and we teach them how to do it using other people's money and structuring. I call it, so every real estate deal has 5 pieces. We call it the deal pizza, right?
Okay, yeah.
The first filter you should look at on every single real estate deal is your goals. Like, what are you trying to personally accomplish? Like, what is the point of the investing? And you'd be blown away at how many people come in and like, hey, Logan, is this a good deal? And I say, why does that matter?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't know. Or they give me some generic answer. I'm like, we can't filter if this is a good deal or not if you don't have that lens up, because what's a good deal for me may not be a good deal for you, or a great deal for me might not be a great deal for you. Like, it's very personal. So the first thing we look at is like, what is your goal? And like, does this asset accomplish your goal? The second piece of everyone is, what asset class are you investing in, right? Different personality types. Some people may like single family homes. Some people want to do apartment complexes or office space. So the second piece is, does the asset something that you're excited about, right? Because you can make money in all of them, right?
Yep.
Asset. Third piece is the debt structure. Almost every real estate deal, not all of them, there's a lot that are own cash, but about 75% of real estate deals have some form of debt. So what is the debt structure on this deal? What are our options for debt? The fourth piece is the equity component. Where is the equity coming from? Is it your money? Is it you're getting it from a group of investors? You're doing a syndication? What does the equity look like? How is it chopped up? And the last piece is the exit strategy, right? How do we actually make money on this thing? And every real estate deal has all 5 of those pieces, or it should, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so I teach people, here are the buckets. And like, let's look at every deal through these lenses. If we're clear on these lenses, typically the first 2 are our goals and our asset, then we can start narrowing down. They're like, all right, what debt and equity structure work with what exit strategy to meet these first 2 objectives, right? Correct. So that's kind of what the basis, one of the base, kind of foundational pieces that I teach people is like, let's look at it through this deal pizza, these 5 deals. Cause again, the goals is the crust, right? If we don't get that right, it doesn't matter. Or also, like a pizza, I don't know about you, but I hate anchovies. Yeah. Like, the rest of the pizza could be great, but if our exit strategy is wrong, just like putting the anchovies on a pizza, it'll ruin the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
So that's kind of one of the frameworks that I teach people to think through deals, because I'll tell them, hey, if you can think through a deal, then you're not going to need Logan.
Yeah, correct.
Right?
And you got to get to a point where you don't need you.
That's right. I want to help you learn how to think so that you can process this on your own. You don't have to call me and say, hey, Logan, is this a deal or not?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Is that the favorite part of your business, the teaching?
Absolutely. Even when we do deals with passive investors that are bringing in money, there's always an education piece.
Yeah.
And like, that is what the through court of both of those kind of businesses, the coaching and the, raising money and placing it into deals, is like, I get to teach people about opportunities. I get to teach them how real estate works, or why we think this asset class with this operator is good, or what we think is going to happen in the market, because I'm just a nerd. Like, I love studying this stuff. Like, I love learning about real estate and finance. And so I just enjoy when I get to share that information with people. So by far my favorite piece is the education piece.
It's so good. What's so cool is how you've gone working in the oil field. You realize that that's not your game, right? Yep. And even understanding that, you don't need the security of a paycheck. You wanted the ball.
Yeah.
Right? And you wanted to go get it. And then sort of matriculating through real estate and finding out what you're great at, what you're not so great at, what you love, what you don't really love, and ending up right here. And now you're teaching it. So that is wonderful.
Yeah, it's really super fun. It's really, I tell it to my wife all the time, like, we just passed the 8-year mark. And I'm like, and she hasn't worked since 2019. So maybe we just been figuring this out for 8 years. Like, I feel like we're just figuring out, but it's like, we literally have not lived with a steady paycheck in a super long time. And it's just really cool to look back. Like, there's been times where I had a lot of money and times where I had a little bit of money. And like, I've been through that cycle many times, but what has been the same is the freedom. And like, there's no price. Like, people tell me all the time, what would you go back to work for? Like, what would it cost for somebody to hire you? I'm like, I don't know that I'm employable.
Yeah, I can tell you I'm unemployable.
Yeah, like I'm not employable. Like, I don't care how much money you have for me. Like, if it's going to restrict my freedom and my ability to think freely and make choices, like, it's not worth it.
And obviously your wife supports you in that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you need that partner at home, man.
Oh, yeah. She was kind of at the beginning, it was kind of a blind trust. She didn't really know what she didn't know. And now she's more aware, and she knows that I'm going to do whatever it takes for us to be okay. And we always have. Like, we always figure it out. It's like, that's what people, if somebody's listening to this right now and they're questioning whether they should get into entrepreneurship or get into a business, is like, what I encourage people to do is look back. Everyone that I know that is even mildly successful in their career, right? You have a track record of figuring out. There's been times in your life where you were thrown curveballs, where things were not the way you planned, and you figured it out. So why would you think that jumping into a new business or a new investment, you're going to figure it out? Because that's what we do. We figure it out. Yep. A lot of times we just have to put ourselves in the position where we need to figure it out, right?
Yeah, sure.
Because if we stay in the comfort where we never have to figure it out, we won't. But when it's a necessity, people figure it out.
That might be why I came up with the name. I finally get it.
Right.
Right? Because we all struggle. And sometimes we can struggle for decades, like decades.
Literally.
And it would be on the tip of our tongue. We just can't say it, you know?
Yep.
And what I love, again, you're out there teaching it. You know, so you're just like this show, you're shortcutting their success and helping them avoid failure.
That's right. And that's why I tell them, it's like, hey guys, like, you don't have to make the mistakes that I made. Like, you can learn from this. There's two ways we learn: from wisdom or experience, right? Yeah. Experience is doing it yourself. Like, and that's very valuable. I've done that, but you can learn from wisdom, which is somebody else's experience.
Yeah.
And you can learn from them and shortcut that curve. And that's exactly what I try to help people do. And look, some of the lessons they got to learn. Like
they do. Some have to just do it
because they have to learn what that weight feels like. They have to know what it's like. And I've been in the boat where I've done a lot for them and a little, and like, there's a happy medium. I want to give them some direction.
Yep.
But I also want them to have the autonomy to make decisions. Because when I was an employee and coming into business ownership, the greatest gift my first mentor gave me was he gave me the ability to learn to make decisions and live with the consequences.
Yeah.
Because when you're an employee, there's always someone to run up the flagpole. When you get to a point where you get uncomfortable or you get to the end of the road and you don't know how to make the decision, you bring it to somebody else, or you're afraid to make the decision, you bring it to somebody else and they make it. But when you're a business owner, you're the end of the road. There's no one to bring it to. So if the people that I see that struggle in entrepreneurship, they don't learn to make those decisions because they're so afraid of the consequences. Like, look, you can't control that outcome fully. Make the decision and deal with the consequence and move on. And the more times you do that, the more comfortable you'll get not knowing what that outcome is going to be
that's
and
right.
pulling the trigger anyway.
Yeah. And you'll see what is the better decisions as you move forward.
That's right. And I would go to him and it would frustrate me like crazy. I would go to him and I'll have a problem and I would bring it to him and be like, all right, I got the A or B. Like, I need you to tell me, is it A or B? And he's like, well, what do you think? I'm like, well, I'm paying you every month so that you can tell me what's right or wrong. Like, if I wanted to figure this out on my own, I wouldn't be paying you. But what he was doing, which I didn't know at the time was he was teaching me to make the choice. He had an opinion about which one was better. He knew, but he knew that it was more valuable for me to make the decision and be bought in and also deal with the consequences, good or bad, of that decision, you know?
So I know you're going to tell me the answer to this question, but because you're going to learn to have a lesson. But what's the biggest mistake you've ever made?
Oh, man, I've made so many of them. The biggest mistake, probably, and this is one that I've done several times, is the biggest mistake is setting poor expectations.
There you go.
If you set poor expectations with employees, if you set poor expectations with vendors, with investors, with sellers, if you set poor expectations on the onslaught, if you set poor expectations with your wife, right? Any
exactly
relationship,
right.
If you set poor expectations up front, it's really hard to overcome that hurdle. I've had deals where I set the expectations really well and then we got a moderate outcome and the investors were thrilled. I've also had deals where I set expectations high and we did well, but we didn't get to the threshold. And they were upset, even though they made twice as much as a previous deal because of the expectations. So expectations are what leave people feeling a positive or negative, which then becomes a genesis of just this momentum you can build. So I think that being overzealous and overselling is probably the biggest mistake, especially in my space of raising money and doing deals, is that those expectations is setting the wrong expectations up front.
Yeah,
and just being too positive, just not being realistic enough.
It's definitely going to work.
That's right. It's and like you don't know what you don't know, but now I do know, and it's still hard for me because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm excited. I see the upside, I want to sell upside. And it's like, hold on. Let me just make sure they fully understand the downside risk. And let's talk about the downside.
Let's talk about the pizza.
Yeah, that's right. How can this go wrong?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if we can all get on board with how it can go wrong and we're okay with that risk, then we can play in the upside. Yeah. But what I would do a lot of times, and a lot of new investors do this, is they go and they're trying to raise money or pitch a deal and they talk all about the upside, but they never address the risk. And a lot of times, wise investors are never going to speak in the terms of risk and return. They'll talk about return a little bit, but they'll say things that let you know they're thinking about risk. But if you're not aware of it, you're going to miss it. And they would tell me, hey, this is too risky. This is too risky. You haven't explained the risk to me, but I didn't know any better. So I would just blow by that and not be aware that, they were afraid of the risk, not because it was risky, but because I didn't explain it to them. Yeah. So how could they know how their money was protected if I never told them? So that's probably the biggest mistake.
So tell me how people can get in touch with you. Either they want to become a real estate investor, or they want to just partner with you some kind of way.
Absolutely. The best way to do it is to go on social media and find me on Facebook, Logan Bowers on Facebook, and send me a message on there. That is the easiest way, the place that I respond to the most. I have presence on all the other channels, but that's the place where I put out the most amount of content, and also is the easiest place to reach me. I don't have social media on my phone at all.
No. Okay. Really? So that's a good lesson right there. Holy cow.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
That's important.
No social media and no email on my phone.
Oh, I get it. I finally get it. Here at Company Growth Academy, we've begun teaching 20-minute growth strategies. They're free, they're fast, and they're full of information to help you grow your company. For more information and to sign up for our advanced notification list, just go to 20togrow.com, 20togrow.com. Let's get it. So you don't waste the time. No email either, huh?
Nope. I have learned that it can wait, and that the things that get me into a spiral and get me into those balls of anxiety come from social media and the comparison and envy that's up there, and from emails that are not really relevant, but they distract me from what I'm doing. So that is not on my phone at all. So even as a company, we're very strict about like how we use social media. It's one of our core philosophies is like, this is a tool, and we are always conscious of that tool using us versus us using the tool.
Oh my goodness.
And it's literally designed for us not to win. It's designed to suck us into the deepest, darkest holes it can get us into, and they monetize our attention. So we're very conscious of that. So one of those is like, but I do have Messenger on my phone. So the Facebook message, if you send me a message, it will come through on my phone. So that's why I say that's the channel that's easiest, is because, and then I check my email a couple of times a day, obviously, but it's very controlled.
You time block your email just for efficiency, productivity?
I mean, it doesn't take me very long. It usually only takes me about 10 minutes because most of them are garbage. Like there's only about 2 or 3 emails a day that I need to respond to. Most of them are fillers. And I'm also a very aggressive unsubscriber. Email list that I do not find value in, or I got on because I bought something, like I unsubscribe every day. I try to unsubscribe for at least one email. Mm-hmm. So I am always doing it. And so I'm trying to reduce the amount I have. And then the ones that actually need attention are very small. So literally about 2 10-minute periods a day is all I spend on email.
Yeah, that's outstanding.
Versus
that's great advice.
Seeing the notification. I don't know about you, but I'm like the type A guy that like, I hate having the notification bubbles. So like I'm always working to clear them. And then I realized like, well, what if I just didn't have them there? I wouldn't have to clear them.
That's right.
Right. And so that was kind of how that came about. And so, no email on my phone.
I love the name of your brand.
Yep.
Strategic Stewardship.
Yep.
Right. So there's got to be a story there.
Yeah. So when we got into business together, me and Spencer, Narrow Equity Partners was my first company. That has a biblical reference as well. Like the wide gate leads to destruction and the narrow gate leads to the kingdom. Right. And so when we kind of got into business, we were like, hey, we want to have a different brand. It was really just the podcast brand at first. Like, hey, we want to have this podcast leg, but that turned into the company that we actually are doing the syndications through and raising the money through. And so it's God's way of investing our time, talent, and treasure. So everything fits into those 3 buckets: time, talent, treasure. And what we want to do is our talent is been, I've tried to get out several times, but God always keeps me into real estate investing, right? So like, this is the space. This is the field he's given me to plow, right?
That's right.
As exciting as all these others, like this is the field he's given me to plow. So that is where we use our time and our talent to help people steward their treasure well.
Love it.
Right? So God has given them treasure. They have been entrusted by God with this. We take that very seriously. And our goal is to help people that have treasure that don't necessarily know how to do their real estate investing. Yeah. Or maybe they want to do it, but they don't know how. They don't know who to trust. We want to be that safe pair of hands that they can trust with that treasure, where we can go and steward it well for them and then give them back more than they gave us.
I love it. That's great.
So that's what the heart of the company is about, is helping people get into real estate that are not real estate guys and gals, right?
Absolutely.
Because real estate produces some of the best returns out there. If you look at it, risk-adjusted returns, real estate performs really well. But again, to get into some of these big deals that we're doing, partnering in some deals that we have 100+ unit luxury apartments in Texas and Florida, that the connections that we have are through our network that the average retail investor would never even know that this deal was going on. Right. We get the opportunity to bring those type of institutional grade deals to the average retail investor, which is we love to do.
So what's next for you and the company?
Yeah, just focusing on that. So our goal is to raise $100 million, to have $100 million of assets under management. That's what we're focused on right now. Right now, we currently have a $10 million fund that we're working on, and we're focused on that. And but our goal is to get that up to $100 million of other people's money that we're stewarding. So,
yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
love it. Named perfectly. I'm a brand guy. So let me ask you this: as you deal with people, you come into contact with strangers, you come in contact with clients. How do you try to leave people different and better than before you met them?
That's a great question. Are you familiar with the Enneagram?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm an 8 on the Enneagram. So I'm a challenger, right?
Yep.
So it is very natural for me. It's in my nature, but I really love strategy, and I really love like the process of moving the pieces around. And so when I sit down with people, it just happens automatically, but I'm automatically trying to find where the holes are. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to challenge them to take a step into the unknown, into that space where they may be uncomfortable, or I see very clear opportunity for them that they can't see yet. And I'm always asking them to take a next step, whether they invite me to or not. I've learned that to wait and let them invite me.
Yeah.
I don't know how to position myself to do that. But even if they don't, sometimes like I feel prompted and I will just say, hey, look, have you thought about this? Have you thought about doing this? And I'm always calling them out to like, hey, take the next step. Whether that's working with us or not, right? Whatever that is for them, whether it's something personal, like I am asking them, hey, there's another step. We're designed to grow. The trees and the plants and the animals, like they don't wake up every morning and be like, I think I'm going to decide to grow. They just grow automatically. But us humans, for whatever reason, we choose not to grow sometimes. So I'm always trying to get them back into the mindset of we're designed to grow and evolve and change. So I am really like to call them out and say, hey, have you seen this? Have you thought about this? Yes, I actually been thinking about it. It's like, all right, well, when are you going to take that step? So I really like to leave people with the thought of there's something else and there's another step, and it just takes a little bit of courage to do that. And I let them go and process it, whether they're going to take that step or not. But I usually identify it and then ask them, hey, are you willing to do this? Whatever that looks like for them.
Thank you so much for tuning in to I Finally Get It. For more information on Logan and what he's got going on, please visit our show notes. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We just started doing 20-minute growth strategies. If you want to sign up to be on our advanced notification list, just go to 20togrow.com, 20togrow.com. If you're an entrepreneur and you have a light bulb moment that you can share and help other entrepreneurs, please reach out to me at jeff@ifinallygetit.com.